This morning's hobby enhancement is New York breakfast. Rightio, so last video I was going through all the boxes, and this video I've finally put it all together and given it a base coat. Yeah, it took a little bit longer than I thought it might, and we had some adventures in spray paint malfunction along the way. But the first thing you'll notice is just how much bloody room this army takes up. This is 6,000 points. The infantry component with a bit of cavalry, this bit was the original army concept, and if I were to lay it out, it would take up 6 foot minimum to spread it out in formation ready to go. As it is, it's taken up over 4 foot just to deploy like this. And we've essentially got two waves of attack, which raises a question about the fundamental tactics, because the general idea is you have a block like this one, right? 25 odd spear. This one's got a character in it, the army standard bearer. I've just used an ordinary guy, and I've stuck a stick in the ground to have the banner hanging over his head, but I didn't want to cut into the actual metal figure because the metal miniatures are so good and they're so expensive that modifying it seemed like a dubious prospect just to have a flag. But anyway, we have a block of 25 spear, 24 plus a character. That means I can have up to 2 detachments of 12 each, and here we have 12 sword. The reason I've gone 12 instead of 10 is so that I can take some casualties and still get the benefits of being a close order unit, and still have a rank bonus even if I've taken a couple of casualties, which you will, either from the enemy deciding they don't like these very much, or if you stick these in combat and a flank attack, they will get chopped up a little. So I want the +1 buff to the combat resolution that comes from being a close order unit, and potentially the rank bonus. And I think you need 10 infantry on a flank, or at least 5, probably 10 infantry on a flank, in order to negate the rank benefit that the opposing army gets. So that's why we've put that many troops on each flank. So I've got spear and then 2 units of 12. The general idea being, when the spear are in combat, if they're charged, then the infantry can counter-charge. They'll probably end up charging to the face. It depends how far forward they are, assuming they're not charged out as the target of the main charge itself. So there's some tactics to work out. But either way, when setting up the army, you've got a frontage of 15 guys with a bit of space in between each unit. So you get a frontage of at least 16 odd inches in order to deploy this unit. And when you factor in space between them, for each of these blocks, you're looking at about an 18-inch deployment area, and then another 18-inch deployment area for the one next to it. Now, this one's overlapping just so I can fit the damn thing in the picture. So you've got 3 foot to form up 2 blocks of spear, each with their 2 supporting units. That's half of the length of the table, right? And that's before you factor in putting in some great swords that you probably want in the front line, room for a cannon or 2, war wagon. The indirect fire guns can go at the back. There's the mortar and the rocket system. It's fine for them to be at the back. In fact, it's probably better for them because it stops you having a weak point in the line. But then we need room for things like pistoliers and outriders to go galloping around. So this army takes up about 4 foot. And that's assuming you don't have things in the way like trees and a giant Dark Elf tower, which are set up ready for the next game on Monday. That, in some ways, is going to be as much of the challenge of fielding this army as the rest of it. But anyway, this is what it looks like fully deployed. 4,000 points worth of Empire. Takes up a hell of a lot more space than 4,000 points of, say, Dwarf, or 4,000 points of, well, just about anything else. Goblins, maybe, they might take up more room. Yeah, you can see some of the assembled things, these crazily expensive miniatures. And these absolute classics at the back here. And I don't need a witch hunter for this army. This is not a witch hunter army, but that miniature is so cool that I just want to have it. And I don't know, maybe have him running around skulking behind the wizards as their, as their bodyguard. We'll say as their bodyguard. He'll keep them alive until he doesn't. And here we have the Knight Army. So this one is one big block of knights and 2 other units of knights, and you can see in here I've used the banner from the infantry to give a different kind of banner for the army standard bearer. What else do we have? We have Knights of the White Wolf General, and then we have a mounted priest, and then we have the absurdly expensive unit of metal infantry. I think I paid $15 per miniature for this. My God almighty. One of them is hammer broke off during the spray painting period, so I have to fix that up. And they have a priest as well. So this block will be one hell of an anvil, and plenty of hammers to go around. No pun intended. And you can see here the 20 odd archers set up in skirmish line. Their job is to basically harass, deal with enemy flanking units, generally get themselves killed usefully, or go after enemy war machines on foot, that sort of thing. Gives some flexibility to what otherwise is quite a straight down the barrel army that will do more or less the same thing every turn or every game. You'll notice I've gone for 2 main looks with the army. With the infantry, I have stuck feathers on just about everything you possibly can. I've gone the full flouncy, basically, including on, where are they? The horsies. And obviously on the pistoliers, they're there to show off. So that is designed to make this as much of a procession as possible. They're there to, the general idea of this army is not the richest province. It's more of a rural province in a lot of ways. But they're there to bolster their own confidence, shall we say. If you look good, you feel good, that sort of philosophy. Whereas for the cavalry, they're all bareheaded. So these infantry are all bareheaded. And while I've mostly gone with the hand weapon and shield combo for the cavalry, there's no flouncy on these guys. These guys are here for a fight. They've all got wolf cloaks. I use those because they are white wolf. But they're there for a long time, not for a good time. All bareheaded, beards out, all that sort of guff. Whereas the standard Empire Knights, they've all got their helmets on. 2 distinct looks. I'll talk more about the painting in a moment, after we have a look at what happened with the spray painting incident. Right, now it will be a bit of an experiment showing this off with the lighting conditions, but basically I used Games Workshop's White Scar spray. I've been using this for many years, usually without any drama. And I know the conditions under which you can use it. If you have strong air movement, that actually dries the paint out before it hits the miniature. And then you get a frosty, crumbling look. It's no good. So I'm always careful to do my spray painting when there's no direct wind and where air movement's pretty limited. You want to have a little bit because you don't want the stuff just landing on your face. But with these miniatures, if you look closely, you can see a difference. This one is fine. The middle chap here is a little bit crumbly. And this chap I've tried to repair with some degree of success. So what happened is I went through about 3 and a bit full cans, so 4 cans all up. First one was fine. The second one was fine for the first half, then it started puckering out and it got a bit weird. The third and fourth cans were both fine. With the one that puckered out, first it sputtered a bit, and then it started blowing a lot more air than paint. I gave it some more shakes, worked it up a little bit, did all the tricks of the trade to make sure it works properly. It was a 30-degree day, so it should have been fine temperature-wise. But yeah, something went awry, and the density of mist dropped right off when the can was still about half full. Now, I didn't notice this happening straight away, so that's part of the problem. So what I ended up with was most of my miniatures undercoated fine. Some of them were undercoated very badly, and it was a terrible finish, and I had to remedy it. And then I found some more since that actually have the same problem, but it wasn't as noticeable. It must have been when the problem started, but before I'd noticed it. So if I take this dodgy old brush here, and I look at this fellow here, I wouldn't normally do this, but if you give him a bit of a wipe with the brush, nothing comes off. There's no debris, he's fine. So that paint was successful. With this one, this is one where I hadn't noticed the problem, but if you look carefully, you can actually see paint wears off. It didn't stick properly. Now I don't know how bad the problem is on some of these miniatures, and you can see me getting up my fingers just showing you. And if you do this, you can see the paint just rubs right off. So I don't know how bad it is. I generally put my miniatures on a A4 size bit of basswood or something, and I do them a batch at a time. Keeps the whole job manageable. So it looks like it affected one plate worth of miniatures quite badly. I had the cannon, the mortar, and 5 cavalry on that plate, but it also appears to have affected the plate before that, which was a 20 or so of these sword and board fellows. Look at that. Paint's just wearing right off. That's really bad for trying to get a good finish. Now, this is one of the knights that was badly affected. So what I did was I dusted off as much as I could with this brush. It's a pretty rough old brush. Then I sprayed it again. And the respray seems to have taken. What I don't know is how much detail I lost in the process, because the brush gets rid of all the loose stuff. Yeah, see, that's holding, that's adequate. Although, it looks like the base isn't quite perfect. That's not as much of a problem, because I'm just going to slop a couple of loads of black paint over those edges, and the amount of... the rest of the base is fine. So that repaired it enough, but it's not as smooth a finish as if I'd got it right the first time. So I don't know how rough I'm going to be able to get my finish on those nights where I had some problems with the spray. I also don't know if I'm going to have to dust off and respray 20 or so sword and board, because you can see straight away that finish on that sword is not going to get me any good results when I paint over the top of it. So I'm probably going to have to respray these guys as well. Now I only noticed that second plate of miniatures having the same problem when I set things up to do this video. Worst case scenario, of course, is that they're all a bit of a lost cause and I've got to replace the miniatures and respray, maybe use a different way of respraying, but that would be a couple $100 at least, and I would not be very happy about that. So, a bit of a fail on the Games Workshop manufacturing quality control, I'm afraid, which I'm actually very annoyed about. With Games Workshop products, you pay through the nose. This is meant to be premium stuff. It's not a $5 can from, you know, Bunnings or whatever equivalent you have in your country. So you'd expect it to work properly, particularly given under exactly the same conditions the other 3 cans did work properly. I'm also told, I mean, discuss amongst yourselves on this one, I'm told that this is a problem that tends to happen mostly with white paint, and it's not such a problem with black paint or with other pigments, which might explain why Games Workshop shifted from white base coat to black base coat for their standard painting tutorials, and black is frankly a much more of a pain in the ass to paint over. Or the general, shift to using anything except white, whether or not you're doing slap chop or something else. Because the only reason to do an undercoat really is to make sure that the other paint sticks to the model properly. So anyway, that's going to be a challenge, a bridge that I'll cross when I come to it. and we will see how the results are as I paint up those miniatures. These are the new paints and bits and bobs that I ordered, in addition to the usual stuff that I've been using forever and a day. This army's primary colours are going to be a very bright red and a very bright yellow. It is the Technicolour Thunder, after all. I had thought about doing yellow on black, but then my friend Andrew went and did his Empire army in yellow, and he beat me to the bloody punchline. So I'm doing a different one. I think the faction is Talabekland, something of that nature. So they're probably the most bright and garish out of all of them, unless you go to whichever that city is that's full of money, and then yeah, it's another theme. I'm not doing a cashed up army. I'm doing an army which is overcompensating for their relatively modest incomes. So I've got the airbrush paint and the matching colour as best I could in the game colour range to go with the airbrush paint. And I buy airbrush paint because I'm not very good at airbrushing, so I keep it simple. I would use Games Workshop paint and mix them in with some thinner, but Games Workshop paints are not really designed for that. I mean, I'm sure it'd work, it's worked in the past, but I figure if you've got a paint range which is specifically designed to work in an airbrush without mucking about, then you may as well make use of it. I did use that range on the last army, which is a different couple of shades of red, a bit darker. That was for the Chaos Warrior army, and it worked a treat. Now, I did buy some masking putty, which I have never used before. Somewhere I've got some tape that can also do the job. The original plan was to set up some masks and spray everything yellow, put the masks up, and then spray everything red. I don't know if that's going to work. I also don't know if my airbrush maintenance skills are going to hold up enough to do the entire army. So I may end up brushing everything on instead. It might even be faster depending on how much of a klutz I am with the airbrush. But the basic gist is to get nice clean blocks of bright colour. Most of my armies are a bit on the dark and gloomy side. I've been doing bad guy armies for a while. So this is the first good guy army I've done, and I want it to really pop on the battlefield. Now that brings me to the issue of shade. In fact, other choices too, like the metals. I'm going to use a bright and silvery colour for the metal rather than the sort of bolt gun, or whatever the hell they've renamed it to, darker metal colour. The general idea is for this army to look like they try to make themselves shiny. Now, on the last army, I used almost entirely block and slop, base colours, and Nuln oil, everybody's favourite. But I want to tone it down a little. Now, I don't want to go an Ogren wash, or whatever it's called now, because that lighter brown it gives you a messy look. It looks like they're just dusty. I've tried that as a test scheme on some Napoleonics, and I went with the Nuln oil over a brown. But I don't want this whole army to be Nuln oil, because it does get to be a bit same after a while. So what I'm going to do is try a couple of different options. I've got a Games Workshop shade, which is a really dark brown. It's in between a brown wash and a Nuln oil wash. We're going to see how that comes out. And if that doesn't work, I've got a Vallejo ink. I've had some success using Vallejo inks with my Demon army, the Demons of Zench. And I do know that if I was to use the ink, I'd have to water it down. So again, I don't know if that's going to be the easiest solution. So inks and washes, they're not all built the same, mate. I'll happily interchange Vallejo colour paint with Games Workshop colour paint. They all do pretty much the same thing. But the Games Workshop wash, or their shades, are a damn sight better in my personal opinion than the Vallejo ones. The Vallejo ones are too gritty for my liking. I'll suit other people's purposes. It's not a comment on quality, it's just a style choice. Inks, the Vallejo inks are fantastic. They work a treat. I actually prefer those over the Games Workshop speed paints, whatever the hell they're called. yeah, but you know, it's each to their own. I know people who swear by the Games Workshop speed paints. You know, just put one layer on and job done, fantastic. But yeah, everyone's got their own style. So I'm going to mess about with these a little bit. So it means in any given game, hanging around in the back ranks of a unit, there will be a few that look just a little bit different to the rest. So they'll have their bright uniforms, they will have their bright shiny steel, and then it'll be in a wash which is not quite black. It'll have some bit of brown in it. And what that means is it'll be showing the wear and tear, and the silver, even after I dry brush over the top and pick out the highlights and all these things, there'll be that slightly dirty hue to the whole thing. They're doing their best to look shiny, but they're still going to be a bit gritty and showing a bit of rust in the armour and a bit of wear and tear in the uniforms. That's the effect I'm looking for, which I'm going to try and get for the entirety of 6,500 point Empire Army. As I start doing units and test pieces, I'll post those up, do a little bit of a vlog along the way. Yeah, it'll be sparse. It'll be a while before the next one because I've got some other projects going on, and frankly, it's a fucking big army to try and paint. Do keep watching. Feel free to like, subscribe. There will be a thing popping up about now, pointing at some different video options that you can check out and see what else I've been up to. But for now, it's time to call it a day.